think, unless you've been living in a cocoon somewhere, you may have heard that this man, James Barton, has recently sold his Creamfields empire to Live Nation. And I think before anything, I think everyone in this room would like to give the man a good round of applause for his success. But, it doesn't matter what you think about big corporations, there's one man who deserves the success that he's been given, and perfectly timed for Pete Tong to get to the bottom of it all.
I thought I was doing my life story.
Yeah, there's no red book, it's just like straight into it. James, how much did you get?
Where's the pie?
Unfortunately, Live Nation wouldn't release the numbers, and that's the way it's going to stay for the time.
Be in public records somewhere. So, well, let's start with that though. You know, what happened? You sold the shop. You know, why? What's going to happen now? What's the plan?
Well, first of all, we sold the shop because we felt as though the timing of the proposal and the deal seemed to be absolutely perfect for us. On a personal level, it was 20 years of Cream this year, so I suppose I always had that in the back of my mind. You know, that was a bit of maybe a good time to move on and try something else. And on a personal level, you know, I thought that the opportunity to work on a bigger stage and work with different people and to work on a number of different businesses apart from Cream, it was just too tempting to turn down, really. So we took the money.
So you've taken the money, you've sold Creamfields, the brand, but you've also taken a job, right? So would you like to explain as to what that job's going to be?
Yeah, as part of the whole project moving forward, I'm going to be the president of electronic and dance music for Live Nation. That is a sort of a big job for me. It's a job that's never existed in Live Nation before, and I suppose in a weird way it's been created for the time and the place that we are with electronic music, and in some ways it's been created for me. My job is to come up with and help implement the worldwide strategy for electronic music and dance music for Live Nation, with the main focus being in North America.
And will you operate very much inside Live Nation, or are you going to kind of set up outside?
No, my new offices will be in Beverly Hills from the 15th of June.
In Live Nation?
In Live Nation.
It's the boy from there. It's the Everton supporter. It's a big move. And what does that mean for Creamfields? And what does it mean for Cream? Do you have an active day-to-day role anymore in Cream? Or does someone else at Live Nation do it? What is your?
I mean, our overall strategy is to create a portfolio of different brands and tours inside of this new business, and obviously the first one will be Cream and Creamfields. My brother Scott, who's worked with me for many years at Cream, will in some ways fulfil some of the day-to-day duties that I did in the UK, so he's now the managing director. But, you know, I fully expect that, you know, my normal day will be 2 hours on the phone to the UK and to Scott from 8 o'clock in the morning. And then, obviously, with the time difference, I'll be doing a normal day in Los Angeles as well. So we very much, it's really important for us that nothing really changes in the way we go about our job every day, the way we outlook about the business, the philosophy and the spirit of the business is not going to change. Obviously, I'm not going to be there every single day like I have been for many years, but in terms of the overall strategy, the overall feel, and you know, the just creamness of the business is not going to change at all. It's you know, it's really important for me that we don't suddenly start changing what we do and start changing, you know, the way we approach our business just because we've done this deal. It's going to be pretty much the same.
Okay, we'll talk about Cream a bit more in a second. But does that mean that then you actively now, day to day, are the man that the kind of buck stops with you for for the Wireless Dead Mouse show, the Identity Tour, Swedish House Mafia, Milton King Bowls, you suddenly gonna get all these problems in your inbox, or are you just doing new stuff?
Well, I think I'll cherry pick what I want to put in my inbox. No, I think obviously Live Nation have got a strategy which they've already started. You know, the Milton Keynes show, but the Swedish House Mafia show is my show with SJM anyway. So what happens at Wireless is Steve Homer's responsibility. You know, my role is not to sort of go into Belgium and tell people like Herman Sherman how to run his dance shows. That's not what my role will be. I think my role will be predominantly starting an electronic business in North America for Live Nation, and then probably phase 2 will be to look at other parts of the world, but probably, you know, my intention is to look at new markets, China, India, places where, you know, we don't have, or certainly when I say we, Live Nation don't have an office or a business. They certainly don't have any dance shows. So, and if in all of that, I can sort of help in terms of coordinating talent bookings or coordinating anything which some of those local guys who are already running electronic businesses in their countries, if they want my help, they can pick up the phone and ask me for my help. So I don't think it's going to be a, you know, I'm not envisaging I'm going to walk in and take business away from people. I'm envisaging I'm going to walk in and create business.
Creamfields, Cream's reputation has been built from the UK, and obviously Ibiza was an important part of that. South America, Eastern Europe, everywhere, in fact, except America. In fact, I think America was the only place you kind of failed, because you actually put on a show that never happened. So, is that also part of the inspiration for doing this, that it gives you another shot at working things out in America?
Well, so we're over the positive stuff now, but it's the negative stuff now. Just so I'm clear.
There's lots of positives to come.
No, sorry. Well, I mean, obviously, going back 10 years ago when, you know, I was working with David Levy and actually, strangely enough, by a quirk of acquisitions, eventually we ended up working with Live Nation in North America, and we had 2 shows up, and they were on sale and announced, and, you know, I think, you know, well, let's finish off with that story. And what happened was that Live Nation got midway through the campaign, didn't like the ticket sales, and they cancelled the shows. So,
But you think you were kind of almost too early in that market, and you now look back at it and think you missed the trick?
I mean, me and David were in Las Vegas 10 fucking years ago in the desert going, can we put a stage here? I mean, to say you're ahead of the curve is a bit of a joke, because we literally was in that city all over California looking at sites 10 years ago in 2000 or 2001. So we were completely too early, but obviously then there was the beginning of something, but then I don't know whether it impacted on everyone's life, but certainly the terrorist attack at the World Trade Center impacted on everyone's life in North America, and massively on things like tourism and the entertainment industry. You physically couldn't put a show together for a number of months because of all the security issues. So yes, you know, we sort of came away from that a bit bruised. We lost a considerable amount of money. Did we learn anything? Well, we probably learned some things, but the strategy was to come away. The outset of the conversation about North America was always that we felt as we were going to do it, we had to put people there to do it. So I was going there on a regular basis. I was considering spending a lot of time there, because we felt as though the market was so important and so big that we needed to have people from our business actually on the ground in North America. So when it did fail, we decided that we would come back to that whenever the time was right. We wouldn't even go back, and I don't think our currency in the market was that great or strong enough and able to go back there in a couple of years. So we just waited. You know, we pursued, you know, the development of Creamfields in other parts of the world. You know, we sort of, with Martin Gonsalves, we conquered South America. So, and we enjoyed the fact that we weren't, you know, I think anyone in the music business, whether you like it or not, you become a bit a bit fascinated or a bit obsessed with America. You know, if you're in a band or if you're a DJ or even if you're like me, you're a promoter, you want to go there. You want to try and prove yourself. So the fact that we came away and we remained patient and we just saw what's been going on for the last 2 or 3 years there, and here we are today doing a deal.
I mean, do you think, I mean, now obviously the American market's exploded, it's a crowded marketplace. Can you reveal any of your kind of plans for Creamfields? Is there room for Creamfields in America?
I suppose we should ask Michael Rapino that question. But I mean, clearly there's some really good shows there. Clearly there's already some really amazing promoters on the ground doing what they're doing. It's a huge country. I don't think there's too many shows there. I think there's definitely a gap there. And I mean, as much as that, I think, you know, we will not look to, I don't envisage us trying to do with Creamfields what Pasquale's doing with EDC, which is to have like 15 of them. I think with Creamfields we may do 1 or 2, but then inside of this business we fully anticipate to have other assets available to us to put in different parts of the country, depending on what they are.
I did actually ask a couple of people that you worked with down the years to fire a few questions at you, and I'll insert one of them now because it's relevant, and that comes from Amy Thompson, who's just really become the Swedish House Mafia manager. We can announce that today as well. She wanted to know, do you think big business in the USA is helping electronic music, or is big money making the experience sterile?
Well, I read your piece of Music Week, and I thought this question would come up today, and I thought that actually, I don't think it's a wider debate as much. I think you try and tell, you know, Pasquale, or you try and tell the guys from ID&T or James Barton from Creamfields what they should do with their business and what they shouldn't do. Everything's different. All circumstances inside of those businesses are completely different. And you know, the circumstances I mean, I'm aware of the money that's being offered. We were offered some deals. We chose the Live Nation deal because we believed that for the type of business we are and the type of people we are, and also in order for us to sort of look at this, we felt as though, and without disrespecting anybody else, we felt as though with Live Nation there was more longevity in what we wanted to do. They're in the same business. I mean, okay, they're in the Jay-Z and the Madonna business, but they're in the business of selling tickets and creating events. And we felt as though for us that was the right thing for us to do. The money flowing around, you know, we've been here before. We were here with the Super Club era. You know, Wall Street guys or City guys chucking in a couple of million quid each to open a nightclub. But, you know,
I have to say, in your not so much defence, but it's not so much a question as a statement. But I guess we should all be proud that a kind of rave promoter from the late 80s, you know, has ended up running Live Nation's electronic division,
yeah,
which is, you know, one of the most potent. So it's quite funny because I've seen Pascal in action in America in various interviews, you know, kind of being quite down on kind of corporate influence on electronic dance music, where he constantly reminds people that that's what he was. So I think it's quite fitting that you now join Live Nation as an ex-rave promoter.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, you know, and I've got a lot of respect for Live Nation Rapino for offering me the job. I think he could have maybe looked inside of America for someone to give that job to, but I think he spoke to a number of people and he gauged their response, and my name kept on coming up. So, you know, I think because I've been through this business for 20 years, because, you know, I've got an investor, I've got a corporate investor in my business, and, you know, and let me give you some news. They're not horrible fucking Darth Vader type characters whatsoever. Some of them are actually just really good investors, and the ones who are the best are the ones who support you and let you get on with what you do. And
maybe we should talk about that a bit more now, though, and see what we can learn from that. Because I think it was about year 9 that Cream, you got the investment from Patrick McKenna.
Yeah.
So just talk us through, you know, what happened at that stage and then how it changed the way you operated.
Well, I mean,
Because it wasn't all roses, was it? It was. In fact, it was almost looking like it was going horribly Pete Tong at the start.
Yeah. Well, it nearly went Pete Tong quite a few times because, I mean, I think making money in music is tough. It really is tough, and I think, you know, anybody that's done this job knows that you're literally one show away from going bust. You know, you'll drop one huge music festival, you lose £2 or £3 million, say, and you're over. So or certainly I decided, because this was post after Darren had left, that we needed to grow the business, and the only way to grow the business was to get some real capital in the business. So we could take a more of a 3-year view instead of a 3-month view, because although the business was, on the face of it, really successful, we were terrible at business. We were great at filling the club. We created this band, but we were absolutely shockingly bad at keeping the money. We just didn't know what to do, and you know, there was a moment where Jim King, who was sort of our quasi-finance director, sat me and Darren in a room and said, "You've got no money. You know, all the, you know, we were..."
It's because the doormen were running off with it. Seem to remember.
Well, and the directors, but yeah.
Because one of the things you did was shut the club down, actually. So.
Well, I mean, because by the time we got to the end,
and they stopped stealing it.
Yeah,
right?
when we got to 99, 2000, we had no money, you know, and then the club was started to lose something in the region of £50,000 a month, and you know, by the turn of the millennium, we had done this big, huge run of events, and we were broke. You know, we were broke, and we you know, it felt really bad to spend 8-9 years conning everybody in a weird way that we were Nike or Virgin. We were broke, and and I think, again, you know, thinking back, I think one of the best decisions I ever made was to go and find Patrick McKenna. And weirdly, Simon Fuller introduced me to Patrick McKenna, because I went to Fuller and I said, "Can you help?" And Fuller said, "Speak to my guy." And I met Patrick, and we spent 6 months getting to know each other, and then about another 6 months, and then eventually he invested £5 million in the business. And then things didn't go right any much longer than that, because, you know, we spent 2 years, definitely 2 years, maybe even 3 years, just literally trying to put fires out across the business. We lacked focus. We were spread too thinly. We had people going off to India to find T-shirts and spending tons of money on private jets for the likes of yourself. And
I was going to say, I think Patrick McKenna came in and said, "Right, you're spending too much money on DJs. You're too much money in London, right?" He sent you packing back to Liverpool, didn't he?
That was my idea. I mean, I think I dragged it out in London probably longer than I should, because I had a good lifestyle. As you know, I was working for Deconstruction Records up until '99, and I think eventually, it was funny actually, because I got that crossroads with Cream where I thought, you need to make your mind up what you want to do, and when you love something without actually being there every day, the draw back to Cream was just too much for me. And I still felt as though I had a lot of unfinished work, because, you know, I'd sort of spent 4 to 5 years in London with Deconstruction as well. So the idea to sort of streamline the business, to sort of restructure the whole thing, and more importantly, and this was the thing, I remember the conversation with my brother Scott, and Scott's great, he's just no nonsense, and he was just like, "This is all shit. All of this over here, that's just not us." He said, "We're fucking promoters. We run nightclubs, we run festivals, we run parties in Ibiza. Let's just do that really well. Let's just get back to where we started." So we dropped the MP3 players, the coffee mugs, the T-shirt, the merchandising business, all of that other stuff. And I think if you look around now...
Which ministry do?
Well, and they do really well. You know, I think, and, you know, James and maybe Loam would probably say the same thing about us. They got into festivals and lost a load of money. So, you know, credit where it's due. And it worked for us, because we went back to doing what we instinctively know, which is to book good DJs and good venues and put good ticket prices on them.
Was there ever a conversation with Patrick McKenna that after you'd kind of straightened yourself out, that did you ever have a plan to kind of, we're gonna float this business, we're gonna sell this business in 5 to 10 years? Did you ever actually articulate that thought?
Well, I mean, they came in with their investment.
I mean, what was their what was their end
Well,
game?
well, they had an exit.
Right.
I mean, the whole. Listen, if you know, and this is part of what we've just done recently. I think when we just sold the business, it was already agreed 10 years ago that this business would be sold, because when you take in corporate investment like we did from institutional investors, you're signing up to an exit. You're signing up to their money, you're signing up to growing the business and then eventually selling it. So the fact that it took 10 years had a lot to do with sort of what we just talked about, with the sort of the downturn of dance music at the turn of the millennium, and then the rebuilding of the business from that point. But yeah, it was always their plan. But at the same time, you know, they went off to, I mean, they did 2 deals, which makes me laugh, and I can say this now because I was so embarrassed that the 2 deals they did simultaneously was they bought 25% of Pop Idol off Simon Fuller, which became American Idol, and they made $200 million on that deal. And they did Cream, which was the bastard child for about 10 years. So like, we were like the guys who were like, oh God, that was the one that went wrong for so long. So I'm actually, you know, I'm really pleased that after the money and the faith that those guys showed in us, and actually the space and the time they gave us to turn this business around, that they've actually exited with something in the region of 3 times the money that they put in. So they're really happy as well. And actually, that was my mission. I had 2 missions, really, was to sort of get us back to where we should be, but also to make sure that, for my own credibility, that those guys made a profit on their investment. Because they literally sat there patiently for a long, long time waiting for us to turn this round.
Let's talk about a little bit about the evolution of the brand, and I think you were kind of definitely one of the first people to really realise that a club could become a brand with right from the beginning with Mark Farrow's logo. Did you spend much time thinking about that? I mean, or do you look back on that as a happy accident?
It was an happy accident at first, but then we spent too much
quite
time.
iconic. I mean, you grew up in awe of the Hacienda and Factory Records and stuff like that, and I know you put a lot of that into deconstruction with Keith and Pete.
Yeah.
And in a way, you look back at that Cream logo, and it's kind of got the same. It means the same thing to the people that were there.
Yeah, I mean, we you know, both me and Darren, we obviously had a really strong love and passion for the music, but we like design as well. So the idea wasn't an original idea, because over at the Hacienda, Tony Wilson had hired Peter Saville to do all of their creative. So through my relationship with Deconstruction, we found Mark Farrow, who was doing all of their creative, and was doing Kylie Minogue and the Pet Shop Boys and all of this other stuff. So we asked Mark to design a logo, purely because we were about to spend, I don't know, 10, 15,000 pounds on a full-page ad in the face, and we just wanted it to look nice.
He was expensive as well.
Who?
Mark.
He wasn't when we did it.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
we got him really cheap, but again, it was probably one of the best decisions we ever made.
How important was Cream's residency in Ibiza? And how important has it been for the brand? And have you managed to stay in one place for so long? Amnesia, the owner of Amnesia, is probably one of the most maverick characters on the island.
Well, we make him a lot of money, so I think we've got a good relationship with him. He is actually a maverick character, but he's actually got the best club on the island as well. I mean, I know I don't want to disrespect Pasha or Space or anywhere else, but actually Amnesia is fucking blowing, and it has been for quite a few years. So
how important has it been, do you think, for Cream, especially when you think back, you actually closed the club that started it all in Liverpool?
I mean, look, I don't know, it's 17 years on the island in one venue. It's never let us down. It's always delivered enough profit to keep us going. But more than that, I think it gave us... Ibiza's a shop window in my eyes. I think that, you know, so many people from so many different parts of the world come to Ibiza, and, you know, some of the first experiences people have had of Cream, whether they're from the Middle East or whether they're from Russia or whether they're from, you know, some other part of the world, has usually been at Amnesia. Not many people can say that they went to Liverpool. I mean, yeah, they can, but I think in terms of the wider world, I think most people's experience of Cream is from Amnesia, which is great because it means that the club continues to perform well, but it opens up doors for us in other parts of the world as well.
So do you think Ibiza can still be as influential as it has been in the next 10 years to the rest of the world?
I think I look back at Ibiza and, you talk about us being here a really long time, and I mean, we adopt a really simple philosophy to Ibiza, I think, and that's just to be consistent, because while the rest of the islands is completely crazy, and obviously DJs and talent and club promoters move around weekly or every season, and then people go out of business, then come back. It's actually nice just to sort of go, we're just consistent. We're just consistently there.
You're like that famous old restaurant.
Yeah, I remember when Manumission was like huge, and I remember us sitting in the office in Liverpool going, fuck, okay. So, right, Scott, you're going to do sex with your girlfriends on stage this weekend, and James, you're going to learn how to be a trapeze artist. And we were like, no, that's just not us. People were literally going, you need to add a bit of theatre to what you're about. And I know that instead of spending 20,000 quid on a load of circus acts, we'd rather give that to one of the hot DJs. And that's what's always worked for us. It's like, okay, we've got our position on the islands, and that is to hopefully book, a lineup which is the hottest or one of the hottest lineups in any given season, and that's what we're about. This
was a question from Ben Turner, actually, that he wanted to know that when you got into business with Patrick McKenna and really useful people, and Paul Bedford, was it true that they used to send someone over to count the money at Amnesia because they didn't trust you?
Well.
Well, they thought you might have,
yes.
saved some. Yeah.
I mean, the simple answer is yes. I mean, the part of the deal we did. Listen, like I said, we go back to what I said before. Is that we were very talented at sort of putting bums on seats, very talented at growing a brand, very talented at getting people excited, but we weren't very good at
counting,
counting money, knowing what to do with it, cash flows.
It was actually the nightclub, not James.
All right. Okay.
I missed that bit. So, I mean, I don't want to bore everybody, but what we got from these guys was just not the money. They gave us some really strong financial disciplines that didn't exist in the business. And, Paul Bedford, for instance, who's just been mentioned, to this day, I mean, I am so indebted to Paul for what he did to us, because he just fucking knocked us into shape. We were still on the dance floor on a Saturday night, probably staying out a bit later than we should. We'd turn up on Monday morning, we were a mess, and we probably didn't wake up till Wednesday, and then we'd start again on the weekend.
The old days.
So to get someone to come in and who had some real sort of nous about how business should run and organise us and get some systems in place, he saved the business in a weird way.
I'll ask you that question about Ibiza's influence, because it's been said that the current explosion of electronic dance music in the USA has created a bit of a year zero moment, out with the old guard, in with the new. The new audience doesn't seem to care about the history of electronic music anymore. The American market's run by kind of festivals, the one-off events, and the power of the radio. The club scene doesn't really matter over there so much. New artists can break from kind of Twitter, YouTube clips. In the case of Madian, he went from a YouTube clip to a record deal, straight booked onto Coachella. He'd never played a club. So what are your observations about that, and where it leaves you in America, or where the American market's at right now?
Listen, I am so excited and so supportive of wherever these new guys come from. I think I did an interview for Music Week, and if you remember 15 years ago when we were involved in record companies, if we didn't get a play off you on Radio 1, our records were finished. The only route to market for any electronic acts was you. And if we didn't get the cool cuts or the essential new tune or any radio play whatsoever, there's a good chance that act or that single for the time being was over. So I think the fact that we've now got a different route to market, which is social network or whatever it might be, is so exciting. I think that where, the people like Deadmau5's constituency is and how he goes about tokens to his audience is genius. I love it, and I should backtrack a little bit and say I never look back. I never ever look back. I never sit here and sort of get nostalgic about the good old days. I mean, I've just sold the business to Live Nation, for fuck's sake. So I'm never going to sit back and look back and go, I wish we were still 500 people in an underground nightclub in Liverpool, because we wouldn't be here today. If things don't progress, if things don't move forward, all of you wouldn't be sitting here. We'd all be doing something else today. So I think we've got to be really thankful for whatever methods Deadmau5, Skrillex, Madian, whoever those guys might be, use to get their music in front of people and build a fan base and build an audience. I think we've got to be really, really thankful for that. I'm really, really happy for it. And again, I think a good friend of mine said to me, how do you feel? You've just got an amazing job. You've just sold your business. You've realized 20 years of really hard work, and you're now moving on to the next phase. And I said, I feel really lucky. Because 8 years ago, and let's be absolutely honest, there's enough of us in the room to remember this. We were fucked 8 years ago. This business and this industry and this music was getting chopped to pieces by rock and roll, by Redden and Leeds. We were forgotten about very quickly. And, through the new guys, whether it's, Swedish House Mafia, Deadmau5 and all these other guys, And I want to say something about David Guetta, because David gets slammed so many times. There wouldn't be an American electronic scene without David Guetta, in my opinion. He opened up America for all of these guys to follow. And now, because he's really successful, he gets a bit of stick. And I think it's wrong, because I think, he's played his part. And I think a lot of us, when the history books are written, would all like to think we're in there. But I'll tell you what, David Guetta will be in there. No question about it.
What do you think about the DJ touring model now then, off the back of that? Going out and the DJs themselves booking the arenas, the sheds, the theatres, the Afrojacks, the Aviciis, the Cascades. And how have you found your experience working with someone like Deadmau5 when you were doing that with him?
I think it's different for different people. I think
because they're not it's not rootsy club experiences, are they? They're now.
But where is the rootsy club experience now? I mean, apart from Ibiza, we don't do any clubs at all. I think the idea of doing a Saturday night club every week, I mean, it was great in the 90s, and that's where, for me personally, I want to leave it, because eventually it became, this is where you start getting into the realms of, well, what works for the brands? And it's like, well, for me, the idea of sitting down every year with a blank piece of paper and saying, well, what do we want to say this year with Creamfields? Do we want to book Kasabian, which we did? Do we want to go this way? Do we want to go that way? With a club, I think it's difficult to sort of evolve that. And we certainly felt, as much as it was really tough and it really did affect the business, and maybe we underestimated the effect it would have the business by making the announcement that we would no longer run a regular nightclub in Liverpool, we felt relieved a little bit. We felt like it was a ball and chain that we got rid of, because we were able to then, and it took more
work
time,
on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Well, and not wake up on a Sunday or wake up on a Monday with a hangover. It's like it was actually quite refreshing not to do the whole club thing. But going back to what you're saying, I think it's different. It depends what you put in those sheds. It depends, if you mentioned Deadmau5. Deadmau5 delivers a great show. I think there's a tendency with dance music that, if Polo Confol's got a residency at Cream, I want a residency at Cream. If Pete Tong's flying around the world on a private jet, why haven't I got a private jet? We follow what other people tend to do too much. And I like the fact that someone like Joel Zimmerman will come along, or Skrillex will come along and go, fuck that, I don't want to do that. I want to do this, and I want to move it on. And I think, taking a little bit of what U2 was about in the rock and roll guys and putting that into electronic shows is really exciting, and I think really, really works.
Does it affect the way you book DJs now? The fact they're all going to come with big productions, and you start. I think you made the observation to me at Coachella that the way they booked that, it was one show after another with production and the change over time. They lost something at Coachella doing that. So how do you stay on top of it?
Well, I think I think that's going to be a tough one and a tough question, because as much as I want to support the guys bringing shows, and I think it really delivers a much better experience for the audience, I think it needs, for me it needs to be limited to the headliner and the second on the bill. I think if everyone wants to change over to set up their LED and bring on some specials and doing all the things they want to do, in all of this sometimes, and I think, you know, why have we done really well and why are we doing quite well at the moment? Because when you're sitting there and you're doing all of these conversations, whether it's building the show or putting a particular aspect into the show, you've got to keep coming back to what do the audience want. You've got to keep saying to yourself, well, what do they want? And I don't think an audience wants an hour of Maddie and then 30 minutes of nothing, then an hour of Afrojack and then 30 minutes of nothing. So I think it needs to be thought about more, and it's certainly, you know, from our point of view, we will probably have to start bringing in some restrictions. I don't know whether it was a purpose thing. I liked what Ultra did this year, which was to just fucking blast their stage with LED and production, that everyone played on that. I sort of quite liked what they did.
Okay. Gave the DJ without production a place again. How do you stay on top of it all? I've always wanted to ask you this question myself about the kind of creative process of when you put the bill together. You know, who decides when that DJ is moved to the main stage or when that DJ is moved off the main stage? And the kind of you know, you talk about finding out what the audience wants. Do you do audience research? Is it, you know, because you talk about we, but there's no. 2 or 3 of you, isn't there?
I think in this day and age, it's all about the audience. I mean, we talk to our audience 2 or 3 times a year. We talk to them just after the show. We talk to them throughout the year, and they decide. I think more than anything else, who we book. Our job is to just make sure we go out there and, you know, and I think, you know, after 2008, after the 10 years of Creamfields, when we'd booked this mammoth lineup, which was a big heavy duty electronic lineup, but we also put Kasabian in there because I liked them, and Ian Brown. We sort of then sat down after that and went, right, what are we going to do now? It's 10 years. Where do we go in the 11th year? And around the table, everyone said the same thing. Let's just go and book a big fuck-off DJ lineup. And that's what we did. And we caught the moments, because I think we caught, you know, the beginning, if you like, of sort of the re-emergence of sort of superstar DJs. And I remember, I think it was the year when I was arguing with Levy about putting Deadmau5 on the show. And David was very clear. He said, I don't care where he plays, he just needs to headline. And I was finding it difficult to find him a slot. And I said to him, I've got you a slot, it's on the Sunday, but I've got to warn you, you're up against Basement Jaxx. Because then, Basement Jaxx was still a big electronic act, and he said, I don't care, we'll kill Basement Jaxx. And they did. And Deadmau5 played on a stage which should have took 8,000 people and probably had 16 there. It was huge. And that was the year that we booked Calvin, and we were like, wow, we could see right before our eyes the new guys coming through and the old guys going out, you know. And, you know, Faithless, Basement Jaxx, those sorts of guys, that they don't play Creamfields anymore.
David actually had a question. I'll insert that one here. He said, are you going to call the new division Scouse Nation?
If I can, I'll do my best.
Do you think did you feel then you have a responsibility to, if there aren't any clubs, or, yeah, I mean, obviously there are clubs, but if you know, where does the new, to make sure that there are the stars of tomorrow, the underground gets nurtured? Do you feel you have a responsibility when you're putting a festival together to still to have a place for that music, for the new acts to gestate, you know, and for the other scene, you know, the Jamie Joneses, the Lucianos, the other world that thrives so much here in Ibiza? Or do you think that's someone else's problem?
No, I think we would like to be fingers in all those pies, because that's the very nature of a festival. You've got so many stages and so many tickets that you want to sell. You want a bit of everything, and I think we do pretty well with most stuff. I mean, you know, the Jamie Joneses of this world, we don't, unfortunately, but we always have to provide a platform for the new guys. We always have to, you know, make sure the space is on the bill for the up-and-coming guys. And I think we always need to be able to we always need to be prepared to take risks, and I think you can do it with the size of Creamfields because there is so many stages. You can throw a curveball in there, and it is important, and we do, we genuinely do, and I'm the co-promoter of Skrillex in the UK, and weirdly Scott, my brother, has tended to be the guy that's brought most of the new DJs to the table, but weirdly Skrillex hit my radar, and I didn't really expect him to do so, and really very quickly I realized that what he was doing was creating a new genre of dance music, and I thought he looked cool and everything else. So we always have to be open to new guys. We always have to be. It's the lifeblood of the business.
So many of the festivals, so much of your competition, and you'll find it even more now with Live Nation, rely on booking. Right now it's a festival could happen if you book the Swedes or Deadmau5 or Getter. So how do you go about turning the festival into a star? I was quite interested that obviously Electric Daisy Carnival can almost, well certainly Coachella, they sold out before they put the bill up there. The Electric Daisy has that kind of same vibe. Creamfields has had that.
Well, I think most festivals are extensions of the personalities behind them. So, everybody knows that, Pasquale is behind EDC. Everyone knows that Pasquale was, cutting his teeth doing small nightclub gigs 20 years ago. And the same applies to James Barton and Scott Barton. We're exactly the same. And I think what we've tried to do is to grow with the talent, so we're, no show is too big or too small. I think that's a lyric from a song, but, there's, it's about, what do we own? Seriously, what have we got in the business? We've got great relationships. We treat people well. We work bloody hard. And when an artist comes onto any of my shows, the first thing they know is that we fully understand the music and what they're about. And that goes back to before Cream. That goes back to 1988 when, I was promoting my first club. I was a DJ for, not very good, but I was a DJ for a few years. So it's the knowledge, it's the experience that we have, it's the relationships we have, and it's the understanding. And that's what I want to bring to Live Nation. I really want to bring sort of both perspectives. And I think, I'm smart enough to do that. I can deliver what they want, and I can hopefully walk some artists and some colleagues through a business, which, is essentially, well, it is the biggest concert business in the world. It's as simple as that. But the truth is that, if it wasn't me, I would have wished it was somebody like me, whether it was Pasquale or, someone from the dance community, because I do laugh a little bit. It does piss me off a little bit. I'm more pissed off about rock and roll guys trying to book program dance acts onto their festivals right now than people piling money into dance music. Because if people take that money and use it in the right way, that's fine. But then you see guys who are like going, okay, I've been booking the Kings of Leon for the last 10 fucking years, so now I've heard dance music's massive, so I'm going to book the Swedes, or I'm going to book David, or I'm going to book whoever. That, for me, looks a bit weird. But that's my passion and my, that's mine. I don't want you to touch that sort of thing going on there. And it might be, but it does, it does make me laugh when I see some of the acts turning up on some of those bills.
Do you think it's inevitable now that a company like AEG, Live Nation's competition, will go and buy EDC or something and put to get their own James Barton?
Well, weirdly, that might be Jim King. So, we used to work together. I think there's a good chance there'll be a few deals coming down the street similar to us. I think that if we want to try and truly create a global business, we need a partner like Live Nation. I can't do that by myself.
Okay. I first met you actually DJing at the 051 Club in Liverpool where he was DJ. He used to DJ with his shirt off, sweating profusely, shouting from the booth, and you daren't go on the dance floor. It's the most dangerous place in the world. Do you ever regret not carrying on DJ?
Yeah.
When I see you wanting to be, I never saw that side of him. I'll tell you more about that later.
I don't remember that at all. But you know what? No. Is the simple answer. I was clever enough and humble enough to say I'm not as good as Sasha or Pete or Paul. I'm just going to go off and be the best fucking club promoter in the world.
Yeah, he did that. Last thing before we open it up to questions from the floor, will you be sending Darren Hughes a bottle of champagne?
Well, you know what? And I don't want to get emotional, but Darren was the first guy to email me after the deal, and everything we've gone through, I thought it was really amazing that he was the first guy to drop a message into my inbox. So maybe when I see him, I'll have a beer. I didn't say champagne, I said beer.
Thank you, James Barton. I think we've got time for a few questions. So if anyone's got a question for James, there's a microphone at the front, or we can hand the mic to you. You can ask anything, but you've only got 5 minutes. Any questions? Must be one.
Doing such a good job.
I could ask a few more. But here we go. Do you want?
Hey James, just a question. Are you planning to do also some kind of releases, or that you go into the recording business with the Cream stuff?
No, I don't think so. We did that quite a few years ago, but I don't think that's for us moving forward. No.
Thank you.
No problem.
What about deals with artists, like 360 deals? Live Nation is doing that already in the pop business. So what about getting exclusive deals with dance artists?
I think that's a possibility if that's what the artist wants. If the guys out there can justify that type of deal, because obviously the big global deals, that will be, I suppose, really up to them. I think, would we sit down and speak to people about that? Yeah, of course we would.
There's a couple over there.
Hello, James. First of all, congratulations. Really, I think Live Nation are very, very lucky to get you, mate. Seriously. When you mentioned before that you're a bit pissed off about these mainstream promoters picking dance music acts onto the big bills, what are your thoughts about the 123 Festival coming up here in Ibiza, which Live Nation are putting on?
Yeah, that's a Live Nation Spain deal. I think it could be amazing. It's if there's one place in the whole world it could work, it's Ibiza. We'll see. I think the idea of having Lenny Kravitz and Luciano in the studio together creating music.
Elton John.
Huh? And Elton John.
Elton John.
You do the Elton John one. You did a remix of Don't Let the Sun Go Down.
Yeah, something like that. If you'll sing it, I'll do it.
You're rocket man, aren't you? It could be. Ibiza's that melting pot. It's got that history of sort of going back to the 70s and the 80s of that sort of big pop rock star coming to the island. So you never know. It's going to be. We'll all wait and see. And I think Ibiza. Question and hats off to Andy Mackay. I never thought rock and roll would work in Ibiza. So let's wait and see.
One more question there, go on.
Sorry, maybe a little bit controversial, but do you think any of the new wave of acts, Deadmau5, David Guetta, not new wave, but I guess have a legacy? So in 20 years from now, will we be buying a David Guetta album or a Deadmau5 album? Whereas the likes of Orbital, Prodigy, people like that, people are still discovering them, 20 years down the line. So I'm just wondering if this is sort of a kind of a flash in the pan, or will we, kids 20 years from now be buying this music?
I don't think kids will be buying any type of music in 20 years. You know, if anyone's got a kid who's, you know, 11 or 10, you will know they buy zero music. They, you know, unfortunately, and I mean, me and Pete go back to sort of the good old days when we could sell a few million dance copies, records, and obviously Orbital was one of Pete's bands. The recorded industry has changed so much. I fear that a long, long time ago, and this is my personal point of view, when dance labels started giving away music on the front cover of magazines was the beginning of the end, you know. And I think the kids of today, they want to use music in a different way. They want to consume it in a different way, and it's a different experience. And thankfully for me, I think they're spending their money on going to see gigs. You know, I think you get so much more enjoyment out of being in a 1,500 capacity venue in London watching Skrillex than sitting in your bedroom listening to the CD. That's my personal point of view. Record company's going to hate me for that, but I think in 20 years' time we don't know. It's changing so quick.
I think we'll see bands back though. It won't look like before, but I think, you know, the Chemical Brothers really started out DJing as did Daft Punk, so
we're going to put all our money into Pete. He knows what the future holds. Yeah.
I think that's it, because we've got to move on. It's a busy day, but thank you very much once again. Round of applause for James Barton.
Thank you very much.